I'm Lisa Eldridge. I've been working as a makeup artist for around 17 years. During that time, I've worked on literally hundreds of fashion shoots, countless magazine covers, lots of gorgeous celebrities and fashion shows. One of the things I really like about my job is the fact that I get to have a makeup artist on hand 24 hours a day, me. And I think that's something that having great makeup skills is such an asset. It means that every time you've got a special occasion coming up, or if you're just feeling a little bit tired, you know that you've got the skills to make yourself look your absolute best. I'd like this DVD to help to teach you to get to know your own face, to help to give you the technical knowledge and the know-how to be able to create these looks yourselves with confidence. The great thing about watching a DVD is that you're seeing me doing the makeup as I'm actually doing it. So I believe that all of these looks are achievable. You know, there's no retouching involved here. You're actually seeing me as I'm doing the looks. And if I can do it, I believe that you can too. Starting with the basics, which everybody needs, and then moving on to 3 inspiring new looks so that you can look gorgeous this autumn. Okay, I'm going to be starting with the basics, and by that I mean the foundation, the concealer, the powder, the things that most people have problems with. The basics are so important, I can't stress that enough. If you can get this part of the makeup right, your skin will look amazing. And from then on, everything will look great, whether you do red lips or smoky eyes. If you can get this stage right, they will all look great. The first thing I say you need to do is get to know your own face, which sounds very strange, because obviously everyone looks at themselves in the mirror every day. But in my experience, people really don't know their own face. I recommend looking in a good mirror in daylight, maybe on a Saturday morning when you've got a little bit of free time, and just really having a good look at your skin. Firstly, for the colour. Now, often people have a different colour on their chest, for example, than they are on their neck. They have on their neck and their face. And it's all about bringing this all together and creating uniformity with the foundation. I think the greatest compliment a woman can get is, wow, your skin looks amazing. And that's the compliment that we all want. No one wants to be told, wow, your foundation looks good, because it's just not what you want to hear. So I'm really going to be focusing on just a great, natural looking foundation that really looks like her own skin, but just better. For Jessica, because she has got quite a predominant yellow tone base to her skin, I'm going to be avoiding the really pink tone foundations and going for something that is quite yellow toned. And in general, I'd say avoid the very pinky tone foundations, even if you do have pink in your skin, because you don't want to accentuate it. If you do have a very pale and maybe a sort of English rose complexion and a pinkiness in the baseline, go for something that's more neutral, so something that's very ivory and very creamy looking, rather than something that's predominantly looks pink or looks yellow. But certainly for Jessica, it's a pale colour because she is pale, but I'm going for something with a nice yellow tone base. Now, Jessica was saying that she wanted to have that real dewiness to her skin because she has problems with the dryness of her skin. So I've used lots of moisturiser, as I said, and I'm going to use a light reflective foundation. This is Rimmel Recover, which is one that has lots of light reflective particles. Now, there's a whole generation of these foundations. It's very new technology. The idea is obviously that it reflects light, so you look very fresh and you look very natural. And if anything, it deflects away from any imperfections. It's important to remember what foundation is meant to be doing as well, because foundation is not for covering every single flaw on your face. If you start to apply it thinking that you're going to cover any blemishes, spots, pigmentation, you're going to end up with a mask on your face, and that's not what foundation is about. Foundation is just for evening out the skin tone. It will camouflage minor flaws, but anything like blemishes or pigmentation, that's concealer's job. That's why it's called concealer. It's for covering things. So don't get the two confused. Try and keep your foundation as light and as sheer as possible. It should just beautify your skin, but it shouldn't cover like a mask. Now, when I've applied most of the foundation, you want to be making sure that everything is seamless. So you can see there's no joins. You need to be looking at the neck. You need to be standing back and making sure that everything is looking more or less uniform here. There's no marks around the side of the face, and just really seamless, again, into the hairline. And if you apply it thinly, this should be quite easy to do. So next I'm going to go on to concealer. Now this is an area of confusion for everybody. The light reflective pens are what they say, they're for reflecting light. So they're very, very good they're there for shadows. So if you're dark under the eyes and you don't want to use a heavy product around your eyes, which it's best not to anyway, they're great for around the eyes. But if you do have blemishes or pigmentation or red patches or anything else, you really need a good solid concealer. And it's no point buying something that's only semi-opaque. I don't really see the point of that. A good concealer should conceal, block out completely, whether it's a spot or a blemish, it should completely block it out. So I'm going to start by using the light reflective pen. Again, this is a slightly yellow toned, it's the number 7 Instant Radiance Concealer, and it's just great for correcting any shadows. So looking here at Jessica, I can see that she's mainly just quite dark here in the corner. So I'm going to apply it quite a bit just there in the corner, both sides, and I'll blend that out across. Now, one of the big mistakes with these pens is, and you see it in the some of the more celebrity-based magazines, is when people, they put on so much and they cover the entire area here, and you have what I call the reverse panda syndrome, which is you see them flashed on the red carpet with this enormous white sort of half moon shape. These pens, you have to use them quite sparingly and just where you need them. So you don't need to sort of pile it on in the whole of this area. Not many people are dark all the way across anyway. So I'm really just patting it in, gently sort of rolling it in, just to the corner here. And that will lift the shadow. If you're very, very dark under the eyes, you can mix these with concealer, with a more sort of solid concealer, and apply them with a brush, and that works really well too. But I think the less makeup you put around your eyes, the better really, in terms of texture. These pens are great also for sort of if you're very deep around the nose or you have any other very shadowy areas. I'm going to actually use a little bit of this on my hand and mix it with concealer now. Now, finding the right shade of concealer is not an easy thing to do. Most people, you read so much conflicting advice in magazines. I was just reading something the other day that said your concealer should be lighter than your skin. Well, you'll be able to see it on the skin. And then someone else, I read something else, it should be darker. It should be exactly the same colour as your skin, otherwise you'll be able to see it. Now, often you have to mix 2 colours to do that. If you're very lucky, then you'll find the exact right colour for you. Again, do this in daylight. So I'm going to mix 2 different concealers, because I've already had a look at Jessica's skin, and she's sort of halfway between these 2. The sort of thing I'm looking at is any blemishes, obviously. There's a small one there. And I'm just making sure I apply it to the spot, but also I blend out around the edges, because I don't want any marks from the concealer at all. And again, less is more. I think good makeup should be seamless, almost in synergy with the skin. So you don't see it sitting on top of the skin, it needs to blend in with the skin. Around the eyes, often people have a little red line here in the corner, which, if you conceal away, is a miracle worker, because it really lifts the corner of your eye. So I'm going to make sure that any redness around there is gone. Ordinarily, I would finish this concealing before I went on to use cream blusher, which is what I'm going to use. However, Jessica has some redness naturally in her cheeks, and the redness tends to be, I don't know if you can see, sort of around here. So I'm going to use the blusher to get the natural blush on the apples of the cheeks, and then I'm going to come back to the concealing and just touch up there a little bit, but I'm going to move on to the blusher now. Now I've decided to use a cream blusher. The reason I'm doing that is because she's got dry skin anyway, and dry skin and cream blushes work really well together. It gives the skin a lovely luminosity and a real dewiness. And also, again, it's that thing of having it really in synergy with the skin, so it blends very well into the skin. And it looks almost as if you're naturally blushing from within, which is why I love it as a product. If you want to get that dewiness, you never really can get that with a powder product. So if you're going for that daytime, healthy, dewy, fresh look, then it's better to use a cream blusher. I'm going to use a little bit of the product on the back of my hand, and very often these products look incredibly bright when you see them in the pot. Don't be put off by that, because they are very transparent and sheer, and they're easy to blend, so if you put on too much you can just blend away. And I'm just going to put a few sort of dots around this area, and then I'm going to start to blend away, and I'm just blending really over the apples of the cheek. So it's the area of the skin, area of your face rather, that would blush naturally. So we're not sort of trying to contour or trying to sort of make a complicated thing here. We're just applying it to the apples of the cheeks and blending it away and up slightly, just so that there aren't any edges there. Okay, so I've finished applying the cream blusher to Jessica. I'm going to go back to concealing because, as I said earlier on, there's a little bit of redness just around here, and I just want to make sure that's all seamless with the blusher. For larger areas of concealing, it's best to use a brush sort of this sort of a shape, so it's not too small and you can really use it to spread the product. For smaller sort of pinpoint concealing, like actual blemishes, look for something that's quite small so you can really be directional with the concealer. Okay, so I'm going to do my final checks now, and this is quite important, that you just step back, look in the mirror, make sure that blemishes are all covered, no lines anywhere in the foundation, blusher completely blended into the skin, any last minute pinpoint concealing. This is my small concealer brush that I can just really home in on tiny blemishes there, and I'm just making sure that they're all completely gone. Things like freckles or moles, I think, are lovely, so I wouldn't dream of trying to hide Jessica's freckles, and I don't think it's a good idea to do that. I think everyone can benefit from using a little bit of powder. I mean, I love using powder because I think it just gives a polish to the skin. Even if you've got a combination skin or a drier skin, whatever skin type you've got, I think there's a huge difference between a dewy glow and an oily T-zone, and that's really what you need to focus on. Most people will have a little bit of shine around the forehead, around the nose and around the chin. It's what I would call ugly shine as opposed to, you know, dewy cheeks. So I'm just using a translucent, natural, very sheer number 7 powder here, and using the brush, as I say, the small brush, I'm just going to start to take the shine off, just the areas where I want it to be taken off from. Just look up for me. Be careful with coloured powders because they can the oil in your skin will make them even darker than they look in the packaging. So if you want to use a coloured powder, be careful it doesn't make your foundation too dark. So you want to get something that maybe is a little bit lighter, maybe has a hint of apricot or a hint of lavender or something that's going to be flattering for your skin, but it's not going to darken your makeup too much with the oil. So again, I'm just taking off the shine. And if Jessica's skin was oily, and if you've got oily skin, I would say to use a little bit more powder and maybe even take it sort of further across the cheeks, wherever you're oily. But in Jessica's case, who has got dry skin, I'm just focusing literally on the T-zone. The other way to do powder is using the little powder puffs that you get often with the product. And the way to do this, it gets more product onto the skin, and if you want to use them, just make sure at the end of using them, just roll the powder onto the skin with the puff, and then use a sort of slightly larger powder brush just to remove the excess. When you finish powdering, the end result should be, again, very natural. You don't want to be able to see a layer of powder on top of the skin. You want to be able to see, you know, the natural dewiness and the glow and really the texture of the skin. So just a very light dusting. And if you need to, you can touch up throughout the day rather than pile on too much in the beginning of the day and then end up caking, having a caking effect. Another good thing to do just before you move on to the rest of your makeup is just to put a very light dusting of powder across your eyelids. This is because eyelids tend to be naturally oily anyway, and if you're about to use a powder eyeshadow, for example, it won't blend properly on top of the oil. Okay, so I'm happy. I've finished the basics of the makeup here. Perfect skin makeup, foundation, concealer, light reflective and opaque, the cream blusher and the powder. And this really is the fundamental thing that you have to get right with makeup, whether you've got pale skin, dark skin, olive skin, pink skin, oily skin or dry skin. If you can get this right, have your base looking very, very natural, your skin just looking beautiful and clean, it's the starting point for everything. So it's worth spending the time and getting this right.